Printing your self-portrait linoleum. You'll need your carved linoleum block, your foam dish, brayer, a wooden spoon, your popsicle stick, and your ink. I also have prepared a sheet of my white paper, which is just half of one of the large sheets, and I've cut a piece of scrap brown paper to the same size. This was just from the inside of a grocery bag or a shopping bag. So I'm gonna try printing on 2 different papers for this project to see how they look different. I'm going to begin by setting up my inking space. I will get a scoop of ink using my popsicle stick. And I will spread that out until I get a nice even consistency. So it's covering the brayer nice and smoothly. And I have my linoleum block on just some scrap paper. You can use newspaper, any scrap paper that you have lying around. So starting to make that Velcro sound. And that's when I know I am ready. So I'm going to carefully start to ink up my linoleum block. The linoleum blocks definitely soak up more ink than our foam. So it's gonna take a little bit more ink. So I'm just going to spread it out evenly, picking up more ink when I need. I like to kind of rotate using the scrap paper that my block is sitting on. It makes it easier to move around, so that way I don't have to touch it with my fingers. So looking closely to make sure there is a smooth application. Large areas like my mask here will take a couple of passes for it to stick. So rotating it around, making sure I get my edges and my borders, my corners are always really important, and they usually take a little bit more attention because we lose a little bit of pressure when we do those. So just making sure that they are really crisp and inked well is super important. So I'm gonna try to pick up a little bit more ink for that mask. And then I will give it a test. So it's making that nice tacky sound as well. So I'll go ahead and nudge my ink to the side, and I'll move my scrap paper because I don't want to get any extra ink on my paper. If my fingers get dirty, I can always wipe them. Do a quick wash and then lay my paper directly on top. So I'll try to make it level. Remember, once I drop it, I can't move it. So I'm gonna let go, make sure it sticks on, and start to use my spoon. So I'm gonna rub, applying even pressure. The nice thing about the printmaking paper is that you can really see when you're getting some ink to move, to transfer. So paying close attention to my edges as always, moving in kind of a circular motion, giving a lot of pressure to that area where I know my face mask is. The details. Again, I can kind of rotate the whole thing carefully, making sure I don't move the paper. Really important. Get those corners. Give it a lot of muscle. Get those eyebrows and those eyes. I can really kind of lean the spoon using that really rounded tip of the spoon. Now I can really see that it's transferring well. Needs a good amount of strength here. These type of linoleum blocks can be hand printed or they can run through the press. So doing it by hand definitely takes a little more muscle, If we were running it through the press, it would be squished nice and tight. So we have to have machine-like strength in our printing by hand. Okay, so that feels pretty good. We'll see how it turns out. If it looks good, great. If it is a little bit light, I'll know that I just need more ink for my second try. All right, so here we go. Oh, wow. I think it looks pretty awesome. Doing a first pass is great because we can see, you know, how it inked really well. I missed a little bit up here on this edge, but you can also from here make any edits. So I'm super happy with the hair and the shirt. I think it turned out really well. I might want to go in and thin these kind of lines on my eyelids and maybe actually cut into my brows a little bit more, but overall, I'm super happy. It printed really well, and I am really excited to test it on the brown paper next. Now that I printed one edition of my self-portrait, I'm going to try out my different paper. So I'm going to add a little bit more ink to my foam plate, and I'm going to spread that out. And since my linoleum block is already inked, it shouldn't, or was inked once, it shouldn't take too much ink to ink again. So great Velcro sound. I'm gonna start to re-ink the block. Every time we ink the block, we run the risk of over-inking our carved areas. So we just want to be very mindful that we don't have globs of ink on our brayer, or else we might get those globs to fall into our small carved areas, and then we won't get clean, crisp lines when we go to print. So it's a little bit harder to tell if you've gotten all of your borders. So I try to look at like an angle, because you can see that the ink is shiny and has that kind of tacky appearance. So I kind of like crouch down a little bit to make sure that the whole thing looks shiny and inky. Corner needs a little extra. Make sure again that that mask is good and inked. I think that's pretty good. So I'm going to try it out. I'm going to move my plate over, and I'm going to actually put that right on top of that spot so I don't get on my paper. I'm going to lay my brown paper on top, and the brown paper might be a little bit harder to see transfer, so I'm just gonna have to really go for it. Once I lay it down, I can't move it, and I'm gonna go ahead and start transferring, rubbing with my spoon, kind of feeling for the grooves. Making sure I get all those edges. I was a little light in one spot on my first one, so I want to make sure I get all of my edges really well. You kind of see an indentation from the edge, so that's a good indicator that I have applied enough pressure to get that really clean, crisp line. I like to rotate the plate. Helps with the angle for me. Transfer. Like I said, it's a little bit harder to see. I can see the indentation of the carvings, and that is helpful. Again, if I kind of crouch down, let me see if I can show you. If I can kind of see the impression, if the light hits it a certain way, you can kind of see like a ghost image of the ink bleeding through. So I feel like that's pretty good. We won't know till I peel it, so let's go for it. Those corners, last call for corners. Okay. Awesome. So now I have both a white and a brown paper print for my self-portrait, so you can kind of see the difference. It's always fun to kind of test and print on different types of paper, even though you're still using black ink and it's a two-tone image. They have definitely a different feel and a different vibe, so it's really fun to test and try on different papers when you can.